All right, Weijia Jiang is at the White House for us. Weijia, understanding that this is a national day of mourning, but we know the president, for example, has been very active on Twitter tweeting about China. Have you heard from White House sources what his mood is like right now following this news?
You know, this all just unfolded last night, and so far we have not heard an official peep from the White House about what the president is thinking or feeling about this as they try to focus on, as you mentioned, this national day of mourning. And clearly the president is also focused on what happened yesterday with the market crash tied to his ongoing negotiations with China for a potential plea deal. But earlier this week, he had a different kind of tweet storm specifically addressing the Russia investigation. And he said Special Counsel Robert Mueller is an out-of-control prosecutor. He said his former personal attorney, Michael Flynn, should serve a full sentence for lying to Congress. And he has said for several weeks now that when somebody, quote unquote, flips, like Michael Flynn in this case, and decides to cooperate with the special counsel, the president says he thinks that's because they're just trying to get a lesser sentence, and has implied that they're even willing to lie in order to get lesser jail time. And so eventually we expect him to make the same argument, because that is exactly what the special counsel has suggested to the courts just 2 weeks from Flynn's sentencing.
So, Weijia, you know, others have cooperated with the Mueller investigation. I'm thinking of George Papadopoulos, who got 2 weeks jail time, but tried to get out of that. I mean, other people are going to jail even though they cooperated. So how unusual is it for Mueller to request no jail time at all?
Well, this is the first time in this case for the special counsel to file a motion that specifically tells the court how much the defendant has cooperated in the investigation. And so remember, this is a plea deal, and what he offers is going to be proportional to whatever he got in return. And we know he said the information that Flynn provided was substantial. We also know that prosecutors said the usefulness of Flynn's assistant is connected to its timeliness, and it was particularly valuable because he was one of the few people with long-term and firsthand insight into the events that they continue to investigate. So, you know, it's very telling, the fact that Mueller has suggested no jail time, because, again, it indicates how much information and the massive scope of information that Flynn has offered to investigators.
You know, Weijia, I was struck by the redactions in this memo. I likened it to reading a text message from somebody as you're going into a tunnel and trying to respond to them, and you lose the signal, right? Because just when you think it's going to get juicy.
That's a great analogy, Vlad, because, you know, the redacted portions, and I do have it right here because it's very different when you're holding it in your hand and you see just how many black lines there are. You know, the redacted portions come just as soon as you are anticipating a huge development. Just when you're anticipating some insight into what Mueller is looking at, and specifically what other portions of the investigation he has honed in on. And that is telling. Even though it's redacted, again, it shows us how much Mueller has yet to reveal. And it spells out the fact that these are criminal investigations, and we know that they have to do with two branches, one being collusion with Russia during the campaign, another being obstruction to cover up whatever may have unfolded. And so, you know, even though we're seeing lots of black lines, I think those black lines are very loud this morning.
You know, earlier today we were talking to Ricky Kleeman about this document, and Ricky said something I thought was really interesting, that, you know, other than the document, there's a message being sent. See, if you cooperate, look what I can do for you. I can request absolutely no jail time. And it struck me that there's also a message being sent by the president.
When you lie.
And all the, but when you lie, but also by the president, who's saying, hey, look over here at my Twitter account. If you toe the line, maybe I can offer you a presidential pardon. Either way, maybe there's a get out of jail card depending on which way you want to lean. I say all that to say there was a big hubbub made about Paul Manafort and the fact that he repeatedly lied. He repeatedly did not cooperate. He pretended to cooperate and then didn't with the Mueller investigation. What is going on with that, Manafort and his situation?
We are expecting Mueller's team to file even more memos by the end of the week that will reveal exactly that. New details about what Paul Manafort lied about, another memo about Michael Cohen and what he lied about, and why they ultimately decided to strike plea deals as well. But Anne Marie, that's a great point that you mentioned, that, both the special counsel and the president are dangling potential rewards in front of these people who have been indicted in this case. The difference here is Mueller has acted. He has filed this motion to tell the courts not to give Flynn any jail time. President Trump has said he is considering a presidential pardon for Paul Manafort, but that has not happened yet. And so even though he hasn't ruled it out, we have not seen any of that direct action on the president's part that he, could offer eventually, but at this point has not yet. So when that happens on Friday, when we see exactly how Manafort and Cohen are tied to all of this in more detail, it'll be also very interesting to watch what happens on, the part of the president and Mueller when it comes to paying consequences for these actions. And a lot of folks are wondering, why are we seeing all this unfold during a week when the country is mourning President Bush? And that's because, Mueller could have asked for an extension to file all these motions and paperwork, but he didn't. He's abiding by the deadlines that were already in place weeks and months before, and that's why it's happening now.
Yeah, I bet you Michael Cohen was reading that document really closely.
Indeed.
Yes.
And, I guess, Weijia, going forward, as we prepare to say goodbye to you, is the one burning question that I have is, why did Michael Flynn lie to the FBI? That's the question that I kind of want to know. And I'm sure at some point, someday, somewhere, we will know the answer to that. Weijia Jiang at the White House for us. Thank you, Weijia.
Thank you, guys.
Well, key Republican senators say there is no question that Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman was behind the murder of Washington Post columnist and Saudi critic Jamal Khashoggi. This after CIA Director Gina Haspel briefed a small group of senators yesterday about what happened the day Khashoggi walked into the Saudi consulate in Istanbul.
Senators on both sides of the aisle have called for expansive punishments against Saudi Arabia, including suspending weapons sales to the country and ending support for the Saudi-led war in Yemen. The Trump administration continues, however, to downplay U.S. intelligence that Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman was involved in the murder.